ورسوله لا نبي بعده. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد. Sisters and brothers, all praise and thanks is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His help and forgiveness, and we seek refuge in Him from the evil within ourselves and the consequences of our evil deeds. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leads and guides will never be led astray, and whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala astray will never find guidance. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without any partners, and that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings upon him, is his servant and his messenger. Brothers and sisters, fillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in his Quran, "O you who have faith, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is his right to be feared, and do not die except as Muslims." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, "O people, fear Allah, who has created you from one soul and created from it its mate, and dispersed from both of them many men and women. Fear Allah, through whom you ask one another and maintain family ties. Verily, Allah is ever watching over you." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, "Oh, you have faith, fear Allah and speak upright words. Allah will correct your deeds and forgive your sins, and whoever obeys Allah and his messenger has won a tremendous victory." Sorry, is the sound is clear? Is the sound clear? Can you all listen to me?
Clear, inshallah, Ustaz.
If there is any problem, please call me or send a message privately to me. Thank you. Okay. Sisters and brother fillah, welcome to today's session. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here in this international lecture. I am Fajri, okay, a master student in King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah, and also a researcher in CGS, the Center for Gender Studies in Indonesia. I will be here with you as a moderator for this international lecture, a special webinar in the special day of Ashura Day, the 10th of Muharram, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fast, accept your good deeds today and yesterday and every time. Amin. In this special webinar, we are going to talk about the great title, A Critic to Islamic Feminism Methodology. Critic Islamic Feminism Methodology. With our great speakers, the first one is Dr. Zeenath Kausar, and she is a former associate professor in Qatar University in Doha, and also a former lecturer in International Islamic University in Malaysia. And she's undoubtedly one of the worldly women scholars actually in Islamic world. MashaAllah, Dr. Zeenath Kausar. Is she here with us tonight? Can I hear you, Dr. Zeenath? How are you? Sorry, Dr. Zeenath. Have you attended this lecture? Okay. And the next speaker, the second speaker, is Ustaza Ummi Farha. She is a researcher of the Center of Gender Studies in Indonesia. Stand with me. and a PhD candidate in International Islamic University of Malaysia. And Umi Farha, Ustazah Umi Farha, how are you? Are you here with us?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, Ustadz Nur Fajri.
And
MashaAllah.
also Zeenath Kausar is also here.
Yeah, Prof. Zeenath Kausar also here already. Ustadz Nur Fajri, you can.
With her husband, Prof. Mumtaz Ali. Sorry, okay. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Mumtaz Ali.
Waalaikumsalam, waalaikumsalam. She is here, she is here.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, mashallah. In KL, Professor
Yes,
Mumtaz.
in KL,
Alhamdulillah.
in KL.
Also, Ustazah Umi Farha, are you in KL or in Jakarta?
No, I'm in Makassar, Ustadz.
In Makassar, in Makassar.
Yes.
Of Southern Sulawesi. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Okay, from my deepest heart, I thank both of them for being here with us, and we are so honored with their presence here. And as well, I thank my CGS fellow who conducts together with me this special lecture. Before we start, first of all, I want to introduce our organization. You all can see our presentation here, the Center for Gender Studies. The Center for Gender Studies. And this organization was established on the 7th of April 2012. It began with a blog developed to counter the idea of feminism and gender equality through an Islamic perspective. You can visit also our social media in ThisisGender.com, one word, this is gender without space. Next slide, please. ThisisGender.com, where you can find our great articles about Islamic feminism, or about women, or about gender, or about anything related to this topic. Of course, in Islamic perspective, and we counter what they call Islamic feminism also. This organization is directed by Dr. Dinar Dewi Kania, and we have five clusters in Islamic studies, social politics, family, law and public policy, philosophy and thought. And also we have conducted many activities. You can see here, we have COFFEE, which stands for Class Online Feminism and Islam. And then we have also COFFEE Special for Islamic Worldview, COFFEE Special for Law and Justice, COFFEE Level 2, COFFEE Level 3 about Turath, Islamic books and Islamic traditions. We also have some international lecture 2 months ago with Sheikh Dr. Zara Faris from UK. And last month, we also have another international lecture with Ms. Farhat Amin, also from UK. We have also collaborations with other organizations, the students organization in Turkey, and we have conducted many activities. Actually, you can see anyway our activities, our vision, our goals, our missions in our website ThisisGender.com. This is gender, one word without space, www.ThisisGender.com. Also in Instagram, This is Gender, in Facebook, and in YouTube. You can also view this recorded webinar in our YouTube channel, ThisisGender.com in YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe, give comments, like, and everything you can do over there. Okay, after this, let's move to our first speaker. She is Dr. Zeenath Kausar, and let me introduce her first of all before we move to her talk. Dr. Zeenath Kausar, she is an Indian scholar, lives in KL since 1987. She got her PhD in political science from Aligarh Muslim University in India, and her specializations are in gender studies, political thoughts, globalizations, modernizations, and development studies. She has taught in International Islamic University of Malaysia since 1990 until 2006. After that, she moved to Qatar University in Doha, and she was associate professor over there. But now, she's no longer a teacher or lecturer or professor in Qatar University. So I will, in behalf of CGS, make a big clarification that in our poster, we wrote over there that she is now a professor in Qatar University, but actually she is not longer professor over there. She is now an author of books, reviewer for journals, and speakers in many lectures. Okay, you can see some of her books, actually dozens of books: Women's Empowerment and Islam, Contemporary Islamic Political Thought, Political Development, Muslim Women at the Crossroads, Women's, also Sayyid Abu Ala Maududi on the empowerment of women, New World Order or New Western Order, political participation of women, women in politics, colonization to globalization, might is right continues, political participation of women, Islamic action plan for women's empowerment, and the list goes on. Now we move to her talk, Dr. Zeenath, and of course, sisters and brothers, whenever you have a question, please write your question and type it privately to me in your column, in your comment section, and then I will read your questions after the talk and after the lecture. And Mr. Mumtaz Ali and Dr. Zeenath, the times is for you, Dr. Zeenath. Thank you. Barakallahu fik. تفضلي مشكورة. Still unmuted or still muted? Okay. Okay, welcome, Dr. Zeenath. Time is yours. Barakallahu fik.
Did he call you? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
बच्चे से पूछो तुम.
Are you able to hear? Are you able to hear me, please?
Yes, clearly.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي زدني علما. Respected organizers of this lecture from the Center of Gender Studies, CGS, Indonesia, my very dear student Ummi Farha, who earlier studied in University, International Islamic University, Malaysia, and who was one of the brilliant students of my husband, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mumtaz Ali, and who is presently doing her PhD in CGS. Sister Noor Fajri Ramadan, the moderator of this program, my respected sisters and brothers who have joined this program.
Are you able to see me?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
ये निकालना क्या? आवाज इको हो रही. Are you able to hear clearly, and also you can able to see me, please?
Obviously.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
Crystal clear.
Yes. First of all, I'm thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has blessed us this opportunity to organize this program on one of the very important topics, critique of Islamic feminism methodology. I am very much thankful to CGS, Center of Gender Studies Indonesia, for inviting me to speak on this topic. And also I'm thankful to Ummi Farha, who contacted me and gave me this platform so that I can present my views on the topic. The topic is very wide and the time is very short. So I have divided the topic into two parts. In the first part, we have two sections, and in the second part, we will be doing the concluding remarks on the topic. In the first part, I will look into some of the important concepts and the views on those concepts by some of the Islamic feminists, and I will give my critical observations on them. In the second part, I will look into the problems of methodology adopted by some of the Islamic feminists, and I will give some of my observations on that. So this is the whole structure of my presentation. Well, to begin with, let us go to some of the definitions of Islamic feminism presented by Margaret Badran, a known protagonist of Islamic feminism. Badran, in one of her articles entitled, "What Does Islamic Feminism Have to Offer? Where does it come from? Where is it going?" defines Islamic feminism in these words. I want to read this. There is a growing movement among Muslims, especially women, away from the inherited patriarchal Islam toward an egalitarian Islam. Activists use these egalitarian readings to push for new practices within families and societies and to support reform of Muslim family laws. This combination of intellectual and activist work undertaken in diverse parts of the globe has been called Islamic feminism. This is one of the definitions, a very popular definitions presented by Margaret Badran. Now, please note here how Badran is dividing Islamic Ummah into under two labels. One is patriarchal Islam and another is egalitarian Islam. And according to her, those Muslim women intellectuals who are working under the egalitarian Islam, they are coming up with the theory, Quran-based theory of equality, and what theory they are presenting and building and constructing their ideas for the Muslim women around the world and also for others across in all communities, in all cultures. It is called Islamic feminism. In another important definition, Badran, in one of her very important articles, Replacing Islamic Feminism, she writes, Islamic feminism, which brings together interpretation and implementation, is a major force in the drive to move beyond patriarchy in Muslim contexts. We are currently witnessing a new stage of Islamic feminism. This shift was characterized by increasingly sophisticated interpretations of the Quran on the part of Islamic feminist intellectuals and new approaches to Islamic jurisprudence. After this, she pinpoints one of the most, or you can say the foremost leaders of Islamic feminism, Amina Hudud, and then she describes Islamic feminism in these words. The task of elaborating a rigorous discourse of gender equality in Islam that included equality in the family and disentangled patriarchy from Islam would fall to the Islamic feminists of the late 20th century. Through her hermeneutic work, Wadud advanced a Quranic theory of gender equality public-private spectrum, that is, in both family and society, as well as within the holistic ummah, and in so doing, exposed patriarchy as un-Islamic. Now, you have seen in all these definitions presented by Badran that the important point that she is focusing on the non-patriarchal interpretation of the Quran and the non-patriarchal presentation of equality from within the Islamic discourse. This is what she has presented in her definitions about Islamic feminism. Not only here, but also in other of her writings. Now, Amina Wadud, Afro-American, born as Mary Teasley, accepted Islam in 1972. She has authored several articles and books which contributed to what is called Islamic feminism, and she is regarded as one of the most champions of Islamic feminism. First thing, before I start presenting my critical observations on what Badran has said in her definitions, dividing Islamic Ummah into patriarchal and egalitarian Islam, patriarchal Islam and egalitarian Islam, I would like to ask a simple question. What are the main sources of Islam? And this we all know that they are the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, keep this in mind that Islamic feminism is described as non-patriarchal interpretation of the Quran and Islamic texts, and the main sources of Islam are the Quran and the Sunnah. I would like to bring your attention to these words of Wudud in one of her very important works, which is described as the core book of Islamic feminism, and which is Quran and Women, rereading the sacred text from a woman's perspective. In this, Hudud says, and what she says, I want to read. It's very important. With regard to some practices, the Quran seems to have remained neutral. Social patriarchy, marital patriarchy, economic hierarchy, the division of labor between males and females within a particular family. This is what Wadud has said. After this, she continued, Some women activists today openly question this neutrality. Why didn't the Quran just explicitly prohibit these practices? If the evolution of the text and its overall objective is consumed under one albeit important aspect of social interaction, say consciousness raising with regard to women, then the Quran is made subservient to that aspect rather than the other way around. Now, 3 points I want to raise here. Firstly is actually a question. Is this the way that one should address to the Quran and raised such a question on asking with a creating a doubt about the position of Islam on patriarchy? Is this a respectful way? Is this an academic way to raise such a question and create a doubt? Number one. Number two, Badran emphatically said that Islamic feminism is built on the non-patriarchal interpretations of the Quran. And here Wadud says that Quran remained neutral to the Arabian patriarchy during the period. And also she says that now and then we see that it is corroborating with the patriarchy of the time. What does corroborating mean? Corroborating means confirming and supporting the patriarchal practices prevalent and dominant in the Arabian society during the 6th and the 7th century. So we find here in the very first, in the beginning itself, the whole structure of Islamic feminism, which is built on this premises that it is presenting non-patriarchal interpretation of the Quran, is totally flawed. It is, Badran says, it is non-patriarchal Islamic discourse, whereas to the main source of Islam, the Quran itself, according to Wadud, Quran remained either neutral or it corroborates with patriarchy. Now, my third point in this connection is an elaboration on how the Quran has not only raised its voice against patriarchy, but also has demolished patriarchy. All the elements of patriarchy were demolished by the Quran and the prophetic traditions. One who has even an average background of the historical circumstances in which the Quran is revealed, and one who has an overall idea about the revelation of the Quran on the then existing Arabian society would be wonderstruck on how the Quran has made such a revolutionary change that the Arabian society, from what it was a patriarchal to the very core, changed into a non-partisan, a non-discriminatory, a refined and a civilized society. And I don't think that all these can be ignored or overlooked when we are looking into the question of patriarchy in context with Islam. For instance, female infanticide. Female infanticide was rampant in Arabian society during that time. The birth of a female child was looked upon as ignominy, as a shame. And what the Quran said about this. In Surah At-Takwir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. And when the girl child buried alive shall be asked, for what offense was she killed? There are several verses which go against infanticide in general, that is male and female infanticide, and also for various reasons, whether it is in fear of want or for any other reasons. So you are talking about the patriarchal society where female infanticide was rampant and what the Quran has said about it. It brought a change, a total change in the Arabian society. And now what I want to say is that you are talking about the 6th and the 7th century Arabian society. What about the present 21st century, where there is so much female infanticide is going on through abortions and through accepting even an inhuman practice of partial abortion? Furthermore, this I'm referring to both male and female, and how abortion is killing the male and female fetus for any reason. Now, what about the female infanticide in different countries in the world? What about India? There is a slogan that save 50,000 and you need to spend only 500 for just a small test, and you will save the money for the dowry of your female child. These issues I have here highlighted only to say that the Quran is sent not just for the 6th and the 7th century of that time to change the patriarchal society during that time, but also the patriarchy which is still going on in the 21st century, also this patriarchal structure to be changed. Another point on patriarchy in context with the Arabian society. Woman was perceived as a sex object. She was a rattle in the hands of men. Again, we find that it is the Quran which voiced all against the sexual exploitation and sexual intervention with women, and very clearly said that all these practices are forbidden or haram. Islam says that you cannot even go near to adultery, fornication, and other sexual exploitations. In Surah Al-Isra, the Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Do not go near to adultery, because it opens the avenues for many other social ills in the society. Now, this verse of zina and many other verses on this subject again was not meant only for the patriarchal society of the Arabs during the 6th and the 7th century, but it is also meant for all the times and for all the cultures. And we see that during this verse stand against, if we follow this verse, this is relevant to the present times, to stop all kinds of adultery, fornication, rape, incest, sexual molestation, sexual harassment, etc. And again, this verse is also one of the very important injunctions of the Quran, which stand against all the demands of the feminists, of most of the feminists, of most of the political schools of feminism, who are demanding absolute sexual and reproduction rights. This verse stand against the patriarchy of Arabian society. This verse stand against, even today, against all these demands, which are creating problems, which we will discuss later. Then this verse again is a slogan against all those Muslim countries where it is said that we cannot enter into the private affairs of men and women, and so we cannot touch on the laws for premarital and extramarital relationships. I think, if I followed correctly, in Indonesia recently, this problem took place. I'm very happy with those women in Indonesia who presented their case so very clearly, and they simply wanted that the laws should include some such clauses on the basis of which premarital and extramarital sexual relationships and all other forms of sexual relations which are prevalent and which are increasing in number and giving rise to so many problems in society should be hello
Yes.
yeah should be addressed. But unfortunately, those from the side of the government, they rejected all their all their paperwork, and they say that what is very important for us is to protect the privacy of people, and we cannot interfere in the private life of the people. Well, so what I wanted to say is that this verse is relevant to fight against patriarchal norms, where men take it into granted that women can be exploited sexually, and this is all justified for them. So this was relevant during that time, and also this is relevant during the present times. Then we have another issue in the patriarchal Arabian society, that marriage was not considered something as a sanctified institution. It was just taken as granted that any number of women can be approached, and without any legal or social norms keeping into consideration. It was Islam again which sanctified marriage, and not only sanctified marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that marriage is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has put love and mercy in spouses for each other. This is a sign in the spousal relationship, and to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to follow his injunctions. This is mentioned in Surah Rum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ تَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And of his science is that he has created mates for you from your own kind, that you may find peace in them. And he has set between you love and mercy. Surely these are the signs for those who reflect. In another verse, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Sullakum wa antum libasul lahunna. They are as garments for you, and you are as a garment for them. Sorry, please. I have a bit cough.
No problem, no problem.
We have no time here to go into detail of each and aspect of each, and we have no time here to go into each and aspect of the patriarchal society there, and then how the Quran has not only raised its voice but also demolished all those patriarchal elements. And this is not just anything to do only with the family, but also women's participation in society also, in socio-economic political affairs. We have many historical evidences to prove that a patriarchal Arabian society wherein women were not allowed to go outside for any participation in economic, political, and social fields, we find that we have many women companions, may Allah be pleased with them, who have participated in all the structures. If there is a need arises in this connection, we will take up later. So, from both the aspects, conceptually and also practically, we find that the Quran has addressed to this problem of patriarchy. Now, the basic point, one of the basic points to look into to see the problem of patriarchy in context with Islam is that what is the meaning of Islam? Islam means peace. And how do we get peace? Through a willing and complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all aspects of life. Because the Quran says, Inna Deena Indallahi Islam. This deen, which is a complete system of life, you are submitting your thought and your actions to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is enshrined in the Quran and in the prophetic traditions. Where is the space here for patriarchy? Patriarchy is a male despotism, domination over female, as though a family is a government which is an absolute monarchy in which the male is the figurehead who is dominating females in the family. Here you find that Islam is talking about the willing and complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it is family or whether it is any social institution. So there is actually no patriarchy and no matriarchy in Islam. Islam is neither patriarchal nor matriarchal. And what Islamic feminists are presenting Islam as having patriarchal inclinations on one side, and then on the other side they claim that they are presenting the Quran in non-patriarchal image. I want to ask whether it is a non-patriarchal presentation of the Quran or non-representational image of the Quran, which the Islamic feminists are presenting. This is a confused, ambiguous, and hodgepodge collection of thoughts which are constructed within the feminist discourse based on its own Western epistemology, and this is not doing any service, rather doing a disservice to Islam. Now this is about patriarchy. We have a lot to say about, but because of the time and we have many other issues, so I want to go to the other point. And this is here before I move further, I would like to say that we have to be very careful. It is a very subtle point. I really need your full attention, please. Islamic feminists, including Wadud, we find in their writings there is a tendency, and this is also an art by itself, that on one side, as what we have discussed, she has raised a question that to why the Quran remained neutral to patriarchy. And in some of the other writings, we find Wadud saying that Islam is above patriarchy. And then she cites some of the verses from the Quran and tries to show that what she is doing is actually pointing out the problems in the patriarchal interpretations of some of the male scholars, and this is how she is making a differentiation between a patriarchal and a non-patriarchal interpretations of the Quran. So one will get confused that the same Wadud who said about patriarchy and the Quran in such a negative way, and at the same time, in few other of her writings, you find that she is talking about Islam, that it is above patriarchal. Now, when I found all these confusions, I looked into not only her books but also her interviews, which are all present in the social media. And there I see what Wadud has said. Again, Islam, these are his words, these are her words. Islam, its original articulation is very patriarchal. These are the words of Wadud, who in some other writing said that Islam is above patriarchy. Islam, its original articulation is very patriarchal. There are aspects of Quranic articulation that corroborate the patriarchy of the time. Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. Now you say, what really she wants to convey to her readers and when she's speaking to her audience? On one side, she says that Quran remain neutral to patriarchy. Another side, she says that Islam is above patriarchy. And another, in some interview, she says that the original articulation of the Quran is patriarchal. I try to call this kind of a messy and a confused and a hodgepodge presentation of the message of the Quran in the writings of Islamic feminists as a messy envelope. It is a messy envelope. When you open it, you find that hardly there is anything which is concrete, clear, and what you say in Arabic, mubayyan, very obvious. Very obvious. No, you find that there are layers and layers of confusions and ambiguities enveloped, as if you are wearing lots of blankets and you are not able to see what really is outside and what is the real meaning hidden behind it. So this, but anyways, this is not the methodology which should be followed, because what we see in the Quran is that it is very clear, concrete, precise, and it presents eloquently the whole picture. This is what we need to do, this is what we need not to do, and why this we should do and why we should not do this, and all these issues. The Quranic way is a very clear way and a very concise and very concrete. And from this, we should learn that what we are taking a stance, especially when you are talking about Islamic stance on any issue, we should follow this method, that we should be very clear. Now we move to her views on equality, equity, and complementarities. Now, if you look into, you'll find that these are the very, very important terms and concepts on the basis of which feminism itself is built. Feminism is built to address these issues of equality, equity, and complementarities, and they followed their own method, their own sources to address these issues. Now, what Islamic feminists, and here particularly we are referring to Wadud, said about this. we find in the same book, we find women in the Quran. Batu talks about that the Quran is, she says, she writes this, the Quran is very clearly stating in the Quran is very clearly stating that there are biological differences between men and women, and for that reason, there has to be certain functions allotted to men and women which should be complementing each other. Wadud has looked into the verses of the Quran and gave a long discussion in pages about this, that the Quran has done this, and this is a very clear, these are the very clear injunctions of the Quran on the question of equality and compatibility. You will be very happy to see that, Alhamdulillah, her stance is very clear here, that she is accepting the equality of men and women while accepting the differences, the biological differences between men and women, and also appreciating appreciating some of the functions and responsibilities which differ which, which differ with each other, with men and women, and then this is how we make a family and a society. You will get this kind of an idea when Wadud writes about that. But soon after that, she changes. She changes her views when she, and what are her original views on these issues come when we see her writing this. We have to look for equality. We cannot get confused. Equity. Equity means to the complementary. It is like a man who wears an unfinished dress. Look at her words and look at her construction of all these concepts within this line, where she is comparing equality and equity, and then complementarity, and in other of her sentence with patriarchy. We have to here understand one thing. Always when they talk about equality, whether we are talking about the feminists or now we are talking about the Islamic feminists, they make it differentiated from equity. Equality is one thing, equity is another thing, and equity is with complementarity according to them. So if you talk about complementarity, then again it goes into the whole concept of patriarchy. So what she means by this, that if you talk about equality, you talk about equality in the sense that you are not talking about complementarity. You got the point? When we talk in Islam, when we talk about equality, we talk about equality of men and women in humanity. They are human beings, and we look at them as men and women in humanity, as indispensable parts of the whole mankind. Men and women, part of the whole mankind. That is, they are equal in humanity. But then again, we try to make a difference between equality and identity. We say that they are equal, but they are different in their biological identity. We are not confusing here, do not get confused with these two concepts mixing with each other, equality and identity. No, we believe in equality, but also at the same time, we believe in the different identities. And when we believe in different identities, we also believe that there are certain responsibilities, there are certain functions in family and society wherein, because of these differences, there are different functions of men and women, both in family and in society. Not all the functions, not all the functions, not all the responsibilities, but in some of the responsibilities, we find the difference. And this difference is because of the biological difference. So, my point on what Wadud wants to say here on equality and equity and complementarity is this: that when basically when Wadud agrees and appreciates the Quranic stance on the differences, on the biological differences between men and women, and for this reason there are certain functions, there are certain functional differences between men and women in family and society. It means clearly that you have to accept the complementarity. You should accept equality. At the same time, you should accept the complementarity between them. They are complementing each other. They are complementing each other in their different functions. So it does not mean that when you say that they are complementing each other in different functions, you are invading the equality. If men are given the legal responsibility that they have to take care of the financial aspect of the family, and women are not given this financial responsibility, although women are allowed to work and they are allowed to get income for the family, they have their own economic rights. We will come to it later. But at the same time, why this responsibility is not legally given to women? Because we have to see other biological differences between men and women. Women have to go for reproduction. Women have to go for in the just with the in the area of reproduction. You can see that there are lots of responsibilities women have to bear and women have to tackle, and during that time you cannot say that we cannot take this legal financial responsibility because now that we are passing through the reproduction process. They are, if it is given to them, I mean, if this responsibility is given to them, they cannot make any excuse. For men, there is no problem. He is not given this specific reproduction role, and for this purpose, he is physically more fitted to take the financial responsibility. Now, what we are doing is that when we look into these differences, we understand I'm talking not for we as as me really, but the feminists, Islamic feminists, that they understand that if you talk about these differences of functions, then you are accepting complementarity. You are accepting that men and women are complementing each other. Whereas if you accept this, then it means you are also accepting the hierarchy and also patriarchy, which are not acceptable to them. Whereas when we talk about equality, we talk for equality in humanity. When we talk about identity, this is the we have to admit the biological differences between men and women, and which give rise to the different biological identities of men and women. So equality, equity, and complementarity, all these are very important concepts, and we should not get confused with that. My few of my observations on this, which I have written, jotted on here, I would like to read. To me, this is self-contradiction and self-deception. Acceptance of gender difference implies acceptance of certain gender roles through which men and women complement each other in certain areas of life. In such an arrangement, no gender invades the equality and identity of another. There is no gender invasion here. Acceptance of complementarities does not mean inequality. Rather, it means true equality. This is my argument. I repeat, acceptance of complementarities does not mean inequality. Rather, it means true equality, where the full identity of each gender with one's own individuality and equality is fully recognized. We argue that accepting equality of humanity while accepting different biological identities is sorry, fan of religion, is a real and true acceptance of equality. Because here you accept the person as equal to you, even knowing that the person is different in her or his biological identity. You are, in other words, respecting the different identity of a person, as well as respecting his or her equality as human being. And this is the stance of Islam. This would make both the persons comfortable with each other and respectful with each other, and would be helpful for both of them to manage their respective functions with all responsibility and honesty. Now, instead of this, if you say that when we believe in equality and we do not go into complementarity, it means that you do not want to accept the different functions of men and women in certain areas of life, and also you do not accept that they are complementing each other. So to me, what in such a condition, what really one is doing, one is actually forcing oneself to be to become identically the same as the other one, so that he or she should get respect of equality from others. This is, I think, mixing the concept of equality with identity and rejecting complementarities as though it is same as accepting patriarchy is in fact funny and dishonesty with nature and disrespectful to both male and female. In fact, you are doing nothing except that you are simply repeating what the feminists have spoken and have written on equality and identity and on complementarity. You are contributing nothing except you are multiplying the problems in the name of Islamic feminism while promoting these kinds of confused ideas on equality, rejecting complementarities. Now, here, when we are rejecting complementarities, one very important point we have to remember here. In the Quran, there are many verses which talk about that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created men and women, the whole humanity. The Quran says, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa unsa wajalnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum inna Allaha aliman khabir. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created men and women, and from them we find the whole progeny of creation. And if we go further, we find it's not just men and women, but everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in pairs. In pairs. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And of everything we have created pairs, that you may remember the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, with what does all this show? This show that when you look into the differences in the whole creation, the mountains and the rivers, the flowers and the leaves, and you have the animals and the birds, you have all differences, all different creatures which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. There are differences in their colors, there are differences in languages, there are differences in their physique, and in many other things. These differences should be respected, they should not be suspected. Because these differences which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, these differences are created so that we should recognize the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also his beauty and his art and also all his manifestation in the whole nature, that we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is great, subhanallah, that we find all the his manifestation in the beauty of nature. Now, we have many other points concerning patriarchy, equality, equity, which are spread over, and we cannot go into details of all few other so-called Islamic feminists, what they have said about this, but the views are more or less the same, And we would better go now to some other Islamic feminists and with some of their views on other issues. I have here Rifat Hassan, originally from Pakistan, uh, is professor of religious studies and humanities at University of Loyola in Kentucky, United States. She has also authored several books and articles, and she's published in social media, and she has given several lectures on women's issues, and her contribution is also is said immense for the building up of the philosophy, what they say about Islamic feminism. I will just go very quick. Rifat has also said in one of her writings, Islamic tradition is patriarchal. This is her statement. Islamic tradition is patriarchal. Now, I don't want to again go into its analysis we have already done, but here an important point with Rifat when compared to Hudud, I have noticed is that as soon as she talks about Islam and its tradition, pointing out that it has some patriarchal bearings, she immediately tries to clarify her position, saying that she is actually referring to the patriarchal interpretations of the Quran and the prophetic traditions, not to the text itself. This is one thing which I appreciate in what Rifat Hassan has done. In some of her writings, which I have looked into, I don't know about all others, uh, but one of the problems we find in Rifat is when she is talking about the elaboration and the presentation of the message of the Quran through prophetic traditions. Now, the problem here is a very delicate and subtle one, which we need to understand patiently, that according to Rifat, when we look into the prophetic traditions, there are many prophetic traditions which talk about the position of women, which do not go in line with what the message we get in the Quran about the given issue on the same subject. Not only that, she also talks about that, for example, she has given she has written in detail about what the Quran presents about the creation of mankind, and what the Bible talks about the creation. And she makes a differentiation between the Quran and the Bible, saying that how they differ with each other. Fine. We all know this, that in the biblical tradition, it is the Eve who is made responsible for tempting Adam, peace be upon him, and she is made the cause of the fall of man on the earth. and she is presented in very negative terms as seductive, as temptress, as one who has tempted Adam, peace be on him, and she is made, actually, she is the main cause for the fall of man on the earth. Now, not only that, in the Bible, there is also the verses which speak about how Hawa is created. Now, the verses go in the Bible, just to paraphrase, go like this: that Eve is created from the rib of Adam, and for that reason, many of the uh, Christian scholars have come to this conclusion that Eve is secondary in family and society because she is created from the rib of Adam, and in that she is only a partner to her, in the sense that she is only a helpmate. She is not all on her own individuality and her own identity. She is just a part of Adam, so she is a helpmate of Adam, and for that reason, she possesses no equal rights as for that reason, women do not possess, they do not have all those rights like men in any aspect of life. So what they need to, what is derived from here is that they should be simply submissive to men, subordinate to men, and their position is secondary and insignificant in the society. Now, when we look into some of the traditions in the literature, in the Hadith literature, we do find some of these problems. We do find that there are certain traditions in which the same message which is put in the Bible is given here, showing that women are secondary and they are subordinate to men because they do not have their own individual existence. They are helpmate of men. They do not have their own individuality, their own personality, their own identities, this and that. Now, we do agree that there are certain problems in the interpretations of some of the prophetic traditions. And also there are some problems where we find that some of the traditions which have entered into the literature of Hadith, there is some influence, there is some external influence, which is either the culture of during that period when this is included in the Hadith literature or some other sources. The point to emphasize here is find that we have to be careful about researching, accepting, and then understanding those prophetic traditions in context with women issues. However, can we say abruptly that we cannot go for the interpretations and a better understanding of the Quran without looking into the prophetic traditions? Cannot. we so what is important here is that it is very important for Rifat Hassan that when she is emphasizing this point, that we need to be careful about researching and accepting the prophetic traditions, looking into the external influence in the interpretations presented by some scholars. At the same time, it is important that we should we cannot abandon the whole hadith literature and the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we have to understand that, well, there can be certain problems which is our duty to remove them and to clarify them, but it is also our duty and the duty of these scholars to emphasize that we should look into hadith as the second important source after the Quran, and we cannot overlook it. This is a fact, and this should be accepted and it should be emphasized. You are emphasizing about how you should research and how you should contextualize it and uh, accept it, but we do not find that you are talking about the central importance of hadith for understanding the Quran, and also for looking into the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as our main inspiration, to understand and to follow Islamic injunctions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says very clearly in the Quran about the Prophet, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Surely there was a good example for you in the Messenger of Allah. We cannot overlook this fact that the hadith and the life of the Prophet should be understood and should be kept at their own important positions when we are looking into the issues of women. Now, uh, we have many other Islamic feminists. Uh, why I brought them? Because when we are talking about Islam, the main sources are the Quran and Sunnah. So we have understood the position of Wadud in contest with Quran, how she talks about it. And Rifat I brought because we should understand the importance of Sunnah. Okay, so these are the main sources, and we should be very careful about it. We cannot be irresponsibly looking at these sources and presenting our views in an irresponsible way. Well, now we go to another very important figure in Islamic feminism, and this is Kausar Ali, an American scholar of Islam who focuses on the study of Islamic jurisprudence and women in early and modern Islam. She is currently professor of religion at Boston University, and she has also authored several articles and books which have contributed to Islamic feminism. Now, in one of her very important works, Kausar Ali, which is cited by many scholars, and it is praised and acclaimed by both Muslim and Western scholars, Kausar Ali writes this about the Quran, the Quranic position on these issues. These are her words. There are many sentences, there are many statements. I have brought just one or two here. She writes this: the clear Quranic declarations of sameness as and the equally clear Quranic acceptance of inequality based upon differentiation must be understood in the context of an ever-present tension in the Quran between egalitarianism and hierarchy, which exists not only with regard to the sexes, but also when it comes to matters such as wealth or slavery. Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. Again, you know, the way how they are presenting the Quran, you see, the words which they have used. She says that Quranic declarations of sameness, one side, then Quranic acceptance of inequality on another side, is giving what? Is, according to her, giving presentation in the Quran between egalitarianism and hierarchy, which exists not only with equal clear acceptance of inequality based upon differentiation, must be understood in the context of an ever-present tension. This tension is ever present in the Quran. Astaghfirullah, according to Keisha Ali, that on one side the Quran talks about equality, and on the other side the Quran talks about the differences between men and women, and which has given rise to two different concepts, egalitarianism and hierarchy. And so this gives rise to tension in the Quran between these two concepts, and people get confused as to what they should get the final message from the Quran. Allahu Akbar. Now, I need not, I think, have to clarify this, because we have already said when Vadhu talks about the differentiation and equality in more or less the same tone, here Keisha Ali said this and added to it that it is creating tension. Then Keisha Ali talks about that according to her, Islam, to look at Islam as the complete system of life is hardly acceptable, because according to her, Islam is not a solution to all the problems of women. Astaghfirullah, sorry, again, because it's very hard to say these words, say this thing. Islam is the complete system of life, not only for men, but also for women and for all the aspects of life, of men and women. But she writes this, these are her words. In order to make any headway in understanding Muslim women's lives and what is needed to make them better, one needs to move beyond these arguments. Islam is not the solution to all of Muslim women's problems, nor is it the cause of them. I would suggest, in fact, that Islam is not directly related to many facets of most Muslim women's lives. And she goes on giving several examples, and then she comes to this conclusion. In order to comprehend, she is giving this example to show that Islam is not the solution for all the problems for women. In order to comprehend women's situation in Afghanistan, one needs to understand not scriptural passages concerning women, but rather decades of devastating war, tribal rivalries, lack of agriculture, a high rate of infant mortality, and so on. While Islam must be analyzed as part of the larger picture, it is meaningless outside Afghanistan's specific historical and geopolitical context. We need a seminar by itself to critically evaluate her observations on Islam and also on the existing conditions in Afghanistan. And then we would find in the final analysis, it's not just a judgment, but after the analysis, we will come to understand that Islam is the only solution, not only for women in Afghanistan, but also in all places and across all cultures and civilizations. And even the political problems, the socio-economic problems which women are facing in Afghanistan and in other parts of the world, Islam is the only solution, provided you study Islam from non-patriarchal perspective and non-biased and unbiased and unprejudiced perspective, and look into it from such a perspective which is being given for the whole mankind. Now we go to Irshad Manji, who champions the cause of Islamic feminism, and she's an Canadian educator, and the titles of her books, you see, The Trouble with Islam Today, Allahu Akbar, Astaghfirullah, and the other title of the book, Allah, Liberty and Love. And both of these books have been banned in many Muslim countries, by the way. And then about Manji, we can say that she is a senior fellow at Edinburgh Center on Communication Leadership and Policy of the University of Southern California. Now, according to Manji, most of the problems that we find Muslim women are facing in different parts of the world, we need to look into the need for what she calls, quote unquote, Islamic Reformation. She said that in Christianity did it in the 16th century, and now I want an Islamic Reformation, and it is long overdue. If there was ever a moment for Reformation, it is now. And then she says that one of the very important problems that is standing as an obstacle, and we are not really going for the Reformation, is because we have mullahs. She says we have, in other words, Muslim scholars who are not ready for a rational understanding of Islam, and we do not look into the new solutions for our new problems. So she is suggesting Reformation Islam in the same way as we had Reformation in Christianity, which has given rise to Protestantism and Catholicism. Now, in another of her writings, she talks about, she clarifies. By the way, she is a lesbian. She tries to justify that why she does not find any problem with her being a lesbian and also accepting and following Islam. She says we also have the Quran to back up human dignity. It contains many pro-diversity passages that allow us to reconcile Islam with women's rights, religious pluralism, and homosexuality. For example, the Quran tells us that God creates whom He will. Think about that. Think about that passage for a moment. If the all-knowing, all-powerful Creator didn't wish to make me a lesbian, wouldn't God have made someone else? She questions. And then she says that another verse expressly states, another verse in the Quran states that if God had pleased, He would have made people, He would have made you all one people, but He has done otherwise, so that He may try you in what He has given. There are many such statements you find in the writings of Manji and the interviews which she has given. And because of the time constraint, I do not want to go into detail. But I would like to say here one thing, that there is nothing surprising if we find the acceptance and promotion of LGBT within Islamic feminism, because we also see Wadud declaring that I'm an ally of LGBT. And she's going around, including Indonesia, several times for officiating such marriages, and also and participating in the workshops arranged by LGBT people, so that she can give her input as much as possible in the way of human rights. It is needless to go further into details about the stance Islamic feminists have taken also on LGBT, and we are very clear about the Islamic stance on homosexuality, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these people who follow the deviant sexualities, they are the people homun musrifun. Innakum lata'tuna ar-rijala shahwatam min duni nisa'i bal antum homun musrifun. You approach men lustfully in place of women. You are people who exceed all bounds. This is the end of my first part. I had a lot actually, but I'm going quickly because we have also the other parts left in my presentation. Now, we go to the. I hope we have some more time, brother. Can I go a little more? Can I go?
Of course.
Thank
Of
you
course.
very much. Thank you very much.
And
We now look into the
9 p.m. in Jakarta or 10 p.m. in Malaysia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my dear brother. Thank you so much. Okay, we go now quickly to the other section, which is the methodological and epistemological issue in in Islamic feminism. Now, we have taken as an example some of the writings of Wadud, because I, of course, within the time constraint, cannot go to all the writings of other Islamic feminists. And I want to raise my first question on the methodological and epistemological issue on Islamic feminism. I bring here Wadud's this statement and the question which she has raised in her book. This is what she said. I'm trying to look into the methodological problem in Islamic feminism, bringing some of the statements which Wadud has said. So this is one of them. She writes, what happens when the text actually states something unmeaningful from the perspective of current human developments and understandings? Do you get the point? What she wants to say, that first of all, before talking about this and raising this question, what she said is that there are certain verses in the Quran, and there are certain patriarchal interpretations on these verses presented by some male scholars in the past and in the present. And now she says that how do we derive the meaning which is being conveyed in the Quran, whether this is in accord or whether this comply with the present human understanding on the given issue. This means there is a this is a very clear cut case of the methodological problem in Islamic feminism. First thing I want to know from her, that she is looking into the meaning of the Quran to understand the message what the Quran sends to the people, and to understand that, to get that meaning, what she is doing, she is looking into, on the other side, the human understanding on that issue, and on the basis of which she says that we need to derive the meaning which the Quran is presenting to us. The first methodological issue here is that you are making the human understanding the criteria as your epistemic source. You know, epistemology, theory of knowledge, the philosophy of knowledge, and the methodology of knowledge. When you are coming and deriving the message of the Quran, what you are expected to do is to understand it further in the light of the prophetic traditions on the given issue, and then look also what other Muslim scholars have said, and then look into the present scholars, what they are talking about it, and then come to some opinion, and then form some opinion on the issue. Instead of following all this, what you are doing is you are looking into the human understanding first, the current, these are her words, current human developments and understanding. So current human understanding is a criteria, is the epistemic source. This is her source. This is her source of knowledge on the basis of which she would look into the meaning which is given in the Quran for the given issue. You got the point? Now, this gives rise to several problems, of course. This can be further understood from these statements of Wadud. She writes about this on certain issues. Two choices result. Two choices result. Either face the particular statements as unacceptable regarding current level of human competency and understanding, and therefore reconsider textual meaning in light of further interpretative development, or reject the particular text. Astaghfirullah. Is this the methodology that we should follow to understand the Quran? Is this the methodology we should follow to understand any issue connected with women or any other social, economic, or political issue? Is this the methodology that we need to follow to understand the real message which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is conveying to the whole mankind? We should try to understand that meaning according to her in the light of human competency and understanding, and then reconsider textual meaning in the light of further interpreted development, or reject the particular text. In other words, what Wadud said, there are many statements all over in both of her books that we have to play with the hermeneutics, interpretations. Okay, now for that, and this is her methodology. What? That you look into the verses of the Quran on women's issues, then you look into what is the present human development on those issues. And then what you do, you either try to interpret using hermeneutics so that it should comply with the present common human understanding on the issue. If you fail to do, if you put all efforts to come to a right interpretation which can comply with the human understanding, and if you fail that, you better reject it. Astaghfirullah. And she herself, in the next paragraph, she says that people may think that what I have said here may give rise to hearsay. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heresy.
But, yeah. And yet she says that this is the only way to look into the problems women are facing in the Muslim world and in all other parts, in all other communities, so that we can resolve these problems, making a synthesis. She has used the word synthesis, making a synthesis of what all the 14 centuries of Islamic thought on the given issues on one side, and the present human understanding on the other side, make this synthesis, and then bring what you call the
Feminist tafsir.
yeah yes yes the real concept presented by Islamic feminism on this issue after doing a lot of research, taking the Islamic thought on one side and the human thought on another side. This, I say, is a reverse methodology. Reverse, the reverse gear.
Yeah.
You are, if you follow this, you are going back, and the methodology itself is reverse. You are going reverse. You have to understand and analyze the human thought on the basis of what the Quran is presenting the message on the given issue. So Quran should be the criteria on the basis of which we can understand whether these human developments, the human understanding is right or wrong. We may comply with it or we do not comply with it. And based on that, we have to make the adjustments. And we have to make the adjustments bringing the Quran and its message, and also looking into the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay, so
Instead of following this methodology, the methodology you are following, I mean, all these people are following, is that on one side you look into the Quran, and then on another side you look into the human understanding, and then based on that you make the you use the hermeneutics, so that on the basis of that we can make a kind of a compromise and come up with unique concepts which would resolve the problems of women in all cultures. She writes, there are many things, at least this I want to say. Since we live in the time when at least the conceptualization of women's complete human agency and equality between women and men is conceivable, then we must dance the delicate dance between text and agency. Okay? Between text and agency to assert a movement of complete gender equality. MashaAllah. In other words, with astaghfirullah. In other words, you play with the hermeneutics. You are playing a dance with hermeneutics so that you try your best that the message of the Quran that you are interpreting should comply to the present understanding. If that is done, fine. If that is not done, then you ignore everything. I call this verse which she has used for dancing on hermeneutics. I say this is hermeneutics, or this is a gymnastic. You are jumping. You are jumping from the verse of the Quran to the interpretation of one scholar on the Quran, and then you go to the human understanding, and then with all these jumpings you have done, you did all these gymnastic exercises, and then you come to the conclusion that this is the stand of Islam and the stand of Islamic feminists on this issue. May Allah forbid this kind of hermeneutics and this kind of
pardon me, Professor. We have limitation of time, and we are now at 10 p.m. in Malaysia, I think.
Okay, I will go to immediately to the uh, what I wanted to give here a picture is that based on this synthesis idea of Islamic feminists, there have been certain demonstrations in some places wherein women, what they have done is that on one side they kept they on one hand they put the Quran, and on another hand, and in another hand they keep the book of Simon de Beauvoir, the existentialist feminist, who has even gone to the extent that if you want to liberate women, very important point you should understand is that remove her from the household family responsibilities and give more preference to the work outside. And also, she is one of those feminists from among the other feminists of other schools of thought, radical and liberal, that economic independence is the only way for the liberation of women, and that needs a career, and that a career can be at the cost of anything, including family. And then you have an interview, Betty Friedan and Simon de Beauvoir. Both of them are talking on women issues, and they are saying that if such is the case, then Betty Friedan is called the mother of American feminism, and one of the great scholars within the liberal feminist school of thought. So she asked Beauvoir that what would be the condition, what would be the uh, how we should solve, for example, when we have some such cases wherein women being physically not possible to do those kinds of jobs like fire engines and all, some jobs in fire engine and other areas, then what we should do. Beauvoir responds to her that we have to make all means possible so that she should perform it. If physically it is not possible for her, all means should be given to her so that she should perform. Otherwise, we would be, in other words, giving her the choice to either uh, do to either remain in the house or do the outside work, which is inevitable for her. So what is concluded from here is that no choice should be given to women. In any ways, whatever is possible should be done so that she should work outside, even with ignoring her biological capabilities, whether she can do it or not, so that she should feel that she is liberated and she is emancipated. And there are so many statements in her books, in the book of Simon de Beauvoir, the second sex, in that, And this book is carried by women in one hand and the Quran in one hand to justify that Islamic feminism implies that we are trying to make a synthesis of the understanding of the Islamic text and also feminism, and then we are coming up with Islamic feminism, and this is the way to resolve the problems of women in the Muslim world and in all countries. So this is the methodological issue, you can, I mean, that is why I brought this. We can go a lot into it, but as you said that there is no time. The last question I want to raise here is this, and with this I will end, just maybe 5-7 minutes only, please. Why
Yeah.
these
God bless you.
our Muslim sisters, our sisters who call themselves Islamic feminists are preoccupied in creating this kind of Islamic feminism? From my humble understanding, when we look into the 18th century, the Enlightenment philosophy of the 18th century and the philosophy of liberalism, from where we get many political ideologies, nationalism, democracy, capitalism, Marxism, feminism, and all others, we find in them an imperializing tendency. It is a very important point. That's why I cannot really afford to leave it here. There is an imperializing tendency here to make to convey that what we are talking on the question of nationalism is the best. What we are talking on the question of government, democracy is the best. What we are talking on the question of women issues, feminism is the best, and so on and so forth. So this imperializing tendency which is there in all these Western ideologies coming from the background of Enlightenment philosophy and liberalism has compelled some of the women intellectuals to understand that the only solution which we can get to solve the problems of women is that we should also look into feminism, and then we look into the Quran, we look into the Islamic sources, and when we join together, maybe we can come up with some solutions. And for that reason, in other words, what they are doing, that if you can look at my face here, they have the Quran here. From there, they need to drive the solutions. Instead of that, their eyes are here, but at the same time, they are looking at, downward at the west. So, so years before, I have presented some of my critique to what I call accidentalization in one of my books, Muslim Women at the Crossroads. On one side, there is a extreme traditionalization where Muslim men scholars and some women scholars are trying to confine women within the household. And on the other side, you have got this extreme westernization. So what I understand after reading Islamic feminism is that Islamic feminism is a product of this accidentalization. This because I have discussed accidentalization, what I mean by this, in one of my books on women in feminism and politics. So here they are at the crossroads of the two extremes. So when they have no other choice and they could not able to either categorize themselves in any of these categories, they meet an accident. And when they meet an accident, you get these kinds of ideas and these kinds of views. if you look into the nationalism motto, the motto of nationalism, my nation, right or wrong. When you look into the motto of democracy, majority of people, right or wrong. Please reflect on these issues. After serious reflections on all these ideologies, I have come to this understanding, which I am trying to keep before you. Nationalism, my nation, right or wrong. Democracy, majority of people, right or wrong. In feminism, my body, right or wrong. Now, during this my body, right or wrong, we can understand this in context with the corona pandemic, whether this concept, my body, right or wrong, of the feminists is really right or wrong. In some of the places, when people, some of the people could not go along, could not bear in the lockdown for such a long time, some of them came out in the streets and on the roads, and they said to the government, my body, right or wrong. Now, they said this to the government, and the result was that the pandemic increased furthermore and gave rise to many problems and many issues. What do we get from this pandemic? If we want to really get some lesson from here, my body, right or wrong, is a wrong concept. Is a wrong concept, because you are supposed to stay in the lockdown when you have to, and when you have to go outside, you need to wear the mask,
Wearing mask.
bring them, keep the mask, so that you protect your body and also the bodies of other people.
Yes.
This is an obligation for you, that you have to think that your body is not just your body, but
Yes.
you have obligations on other bodies also. You cannot
Mashallah.
simply go with that. And the root lesson of this lesson is this, that when you say my body, my right, you have to look into the right source on the basis of which you say my body, my right. If you do not look into the right source, my body, my right, then that is not your right. That right, what you say, is wrong, because that is based on the right source. But if you say my body, my right, on the basis of the right source, then you would understand that your body is not just your own right, but also other people also have their bodies and they also have their rights. So there is a need for looking into the rights and duties, rights and obligations. It is only through a right source you can understand what is your right. If you do not go into the right epistemic source and right methodology, you can say hundreds of things about rights, but they cannot be rights, they can be wrongs. With this,
Mashallah.
I
What
would like to
mind-blowing
end my
statement.
small presentation. Thank you very much.
Very, very open-minding. Mashallah.
Thank you very much.
Mashallah.
Thank you
What
very
a
much.
great close statement. Nah? Thank you for this interesting talk, Dr. Zeenath. But time is up and we must move to the second speaker, your beloved student, Umi Farha. Umi Farha, are you ready now?
Yes.
But before we move, sorry, no, many attendants ask how to purchase your books. They want to buy all of your books, Dr. Zeenath.
Thank you very much, brother.
Maybe you can tell them or tell us how to purchase your books from Kuala Lumpur.
Actually, these books are published from most of them from Thinker's Library. and some
In
of
India?
some new books have come from Diwan Bahasa dan Pustaka.
Okay.
You know, of course, you
Yes.
must be knowing about Diwan Bahasa Pustaka, and two of the books have also been translated into Malay, Bahasa Malay, and
Okay.
they are published from Diwan Bahasa. One is already published, another is in the process. It seems maybe at the end of this year or the early next year they are going to publish it.
Mashallah, may Allah bring the ease for
I would like to say here that
publication.
in both these books,
Yes.
because I could not say what I wanted to say more in my presentation because of the time constraint. You know, when we say that we are looking into the problems of women in the Muslim community and also problems of women elsewhere, and what really we should do, we have to come up with all these kinds of methodologies what they are presenting. The whole issue boils down to this, that if you look into the Islamic texts, the Quran and the Sunnah, you would find all answers for all the questions women are facing even today, including those issues which the new reproduction technology and which new political issues have given rise to. So when these people talk about the women's rights, equality, and women's development and empowerment, important thing for us is to see that we have the Quran and the Sunnah, and unfortunately we do have the problems of interpretations, and we have the problems of culture, which is an interplay, you can say, between the between some of the misogynistic and patriarchal interpretations and the norms which have developed on those bases. So we need to pinpoint on those problems and give the whole chart, present the whole chart before the people on the basis of which we can give the whole
Sorry, we can't hear your voice, Dr. Zena.
no?
Okay. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So in these two books, what I have tried to do is that I have pointed the verses of the Quran on different issues of women in economic, political, social, familial, and all else, and then look into some of the interpretations of some scholars and who have given who have given such interpretations which really do not convey the real meaning of the real message which the Quran wants to give on the particular issue. When we do this, it is very clear before us that what path, what action we have to take, what platform we have to take to go for women's development and go for women's empowerment. But instead of that, if you make a hodgepodge and make a messy envelope using this kind of hermeneutics, wherein you are giving such a picture, confusion, ambiguous picture about the position of women on different issues, that is actually not helping. And
Mashallah.
we are forgetting the last bit of my answer to you is this, We are
Sorry to cut your talk, Dr. Zeenath, but we must move to the second talk.
okay.
After that, we will come back to you, and we have several questions for you, mashallah. But now we must move to Umi Farha. So Umi Farha, are you ready now?
Yes, inshallah.
We hear your voice. Okay.
Okay.
And
Right.
I want to remind all of you that our attendants tonight are from Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Australia, India, Lanka, Pakistan, even from my country, Saudi, and also from Qatar.
Jadi gimana?
Mashallah.
From all over many countries.
Alhamdulillah.
And thank you for your talk, Ustazah Dr. Zeenath, and we will return to after this. And the time is for your beloved student now, Ustazah Umi Farha. Okay, time is yours.
Yes.
Okay. How about the PowerPoint, Ustadz Nur Fajri?
Okay, is it ready now?
Yes, inshallah.
Have you seen it?
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min syururi anfusina wa sayyiatina a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil lahu fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma sholli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yaumiddin. The honorable invited speaker, Associate Prof. Zeenath Kausar, who inspired me a lot from her work to do my research about feminism, and also Professor Mumtaz Ali is my lecturer during my master degree and my PhD in IIUM. The honorable mention director of CGS, Dr. Dinar Dewi Kania, and the honorable moderator Ustadz Nur Fajri LC, and the honorable asatidz of CGS and also participant. It gives me pleasure to be presenting my paper with the title Indonesian Muslim Feminist Interpretation. Next slide. Okay. Now, we are coming to the first part of my presentation, which is the definition of Muslim feminist. According to Azakaram, who is a feminist activist, he defined Muslim feminist is one who adopt a worldview in which Islam can be contextualized and reinterpreted to promote concept of equity and equality between men and women, and for whom freedom of choice plays an important part in the expression of faith. However, the movement called Muslim feminism does not apply the Islamic worldview as a framework of thinking. Their main project is to reinterpret the Quranic text and the Ahadith through the feminist deconstruction method or gender discourses. It means that their interpretation only depends on their agenda, not depend on Islamic worldview. Muslim feminists have been intensively attack Islamic teaching with the denunciation, unjust, pro-male, patriarchal, and other feminism vocabularies. The target of their criticism are ranging from worship, inheritance, talak, dowry, polygyny, and the issue of LGBT, sexuality, or reproductive rights. Even further, Muslim feminists also rejected a tafsir of human origin in the Quran. Next slide. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain shortly the Muslim feminism movement in Indonesia. In the earlier 1990, Muslim feminism undergo an increase in Indonesia. One of the example of their work is translating book which is concerned toward gender equality, like Islamic books such as Women in Islam by Fatimah Marnesi, translated to Indonesia, Perempuan dalam Islam, and also Women in Quran by Aminah Wadud, translated in Indonesia, Perempuan dalam Al-Quran. Moreover, they also have a discussion among them about this issue. Therefore, Indonesia Muslim feminists only repeated the argument of Muslim feminists outside, like Amina Wadud, Fatima Marnesi, Rifat Hassan, Ali Engineer, and others. Almost nothing new and original argument offered by Indonesian Muslim feminists. Next slide. Okay, now I'm going to explain the method used by Muslim feminists to reinterpretation Islam. There are four methods. Firstly is seek for theological justification that support the idea gender equality to reject authoritative texts. And then next step is criticize. What does it mean of criticize here means that criticize the language style and patriarchal perspective on revelatory text. And then present the woman's perspective in revelation text. Last, employ historical criticism to misogynistic revelation text. At least there are four steps how to the method how to reinterpretation uh, the Islamic sources. Okay, next slide. Here, I give first one of the example of Muslim feminists in Indonesia is Nasaruddin Umar. Next slide. Okay. In forward of Ahmad Fudail books, the title Perempuan di Lembaran Suci, Kritik atas Hadis Sahih, Nasaruddin Umar argued that it was necessary to review a number of ahadith which were considered to cause gender inequality as a way of demasculinizing as epistemology in religious studies. What does it mean? It means must be reinterpreted the hadiths which are considered to cause gender inequality. This is the one example of Muslim feminists in Indonesia. Okay, next slide. In the next slide, I also give another example of Muslim feminists in Indonesia is Musdah Mulia. Here, there is one interpretation about homosexuality. In her interpretation about homosexuality, in her article, the title is Islam and Homosexual in Jurnal Gandrum 2010. Okay, in this article, according to Musdah Mulia, critical studies that have been carried out in the reinterpretation of the Quran and the Ahadith and also the fiqh reveal that homosexuality in Islam should not be considered as sinful. This is according to Musdah Mulia interpretation. And then she conclude there are three conclusion from her that the firstly, there is the impression that the people of Lut are bisexual because in the first it is stated that men were engaging in the same sex and turned away from their wife. People of Lut express their sexual behavior with anal sex, which means sodomy or liwat. Secondly, Allah inflicts punishment of Lut's wife even though there is no information that she is a lesbian or engaging in forbidden sexual behavior. This shows God's wrath on her not because of homosexual factor. And thirdly, her opinion, although there are instructions in the hadith to kill the perpetrators of liwat, but the Quran doesn't order to describe the homosexual, let alone kill them. So this is her argument about the homosexuality in her article. Okay, next slide. Okay, from her argument, our objection of her interpretation about homosexual are first of all, homosexuality is a sin that does not comply with the command of the one true God and is not in harmony with the natural order as well as harmonization of life. The second one, Allah said in the chapter Al-A'raf 80 and 81st that the Sodom had done that the Sodom had done a prohibited act categorized as a fahishah What does it mean fahisha? That has never been done in the history of mankind previous that time. And then also in Ibn Kathir in his tafsir explained that fahisha is a male having sexual intercourse with another male instead of with a female. Even though God created male and female for each other. And then also in the Wahbah Zuhaili tafsir, he argued homosexual act is an act that is contrary to nature due to the extremity in venting sexual desire to go beyond the limits of the habits, mind, and nature. Okay, next slide. Okay, here according to Syekh Nakib Al-Atas, adab in its terminology means correct behavior that arise from guarding of oneself based on knowledge and obtained from the wisdom or hikmah. Therefore, on virtuous person, the willpower of the rational soul will control the animalistic soul found on men. On the other hand, homosexuality is a reflection on an imbalance on the inclination of desire because their sexual orientation and activity can no longer be controlled by reason. Homosexual behavior is a form of evil to oneself because humans have been given knowledge and instruction by God so that is able to distinguish right and wrong. Okay. Uh, Now we reach the conclusion. This is from this conclusion, we make the circle. Islam is the bigger circle, and feminism is the beside Islam. So from the figure described, Islam in a bigger circle. Why? Because the concept of Islam encompasses all things, not only relation between man and woman. Other on the other hand, there are only minor similarities between both of them. Means that the small similarities between the Islam and feminism. Okay. Uh, this idea started because of some similarities in the concept of Islam in glorifying women as well as feminist voice in fighting for women's rights. For example, Islam encourages men and women to receive knowledge and then give inheritance rights to women and etc. If these issues are examined closely, it will be clear that these similarities are minor, while the differences are far more fundamental. For example, differences in view on LGBT issue, sexuality or reproductive rights, and then family rights and etc. Moreover, the most important thing is the difference in basic concept. So there is a difference on basic concept between Islam on feminism. What is the different basic concept here? It means that Islam based all concept on servitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, while on the contrary, feminism is based on materialism and liberalism. Okay, as a Muslim, it is inappropriate to take the concept of feminism despite only minor similarity with Islam, because it is inappropriate to acknowledge what belongs to other while we ourselves have something similar or even better we have. Therefore, it is not appropriate for Muslim woman figures who are sincere towards Allah to be labeled as feminism, just because they fight to their right as a Muslim woman, which have been taken away by people who do not understand the teaching of Islam. They struggle because they carry out God's command, not because of the idea of feminism. The existence of a few minor similarities does not mean that they are the same thing. For instance, water and oil both liquids, but that doesn't mean water can be used for frying and oil is used for boiling. After all, water and oil have a far greater differences like that. Okay, what is our conclusion here? That Islamic feminism is a necessary concept. So Islamic and feminism cannot combine together, but can be unified. But both cannot be unified. If it is forced to be unified, then one of them will be damaged and essentially disappear. Uh, we have come to end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Hopefully, my presentation will deliver benefit for all participants here. Comments and questions are welcome. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ustaz.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Masya Allah, that's very kind of you, Ustazah Umi Farha, and also Dr. Zeenath. Now we move directly to the session of Q&A, and I want some of you have raised their hand. Miss Musna Madiha, please unmute yourself, or maybe co-host unmute her, and then she wants
Zeenath?
to go to Zeenath directly. Okay, Musna Madiha. Tafadhali, you can ask directly now, please. You don't want to ask directly? Okay. So the chance is for Nizar, Mr. Nizar, for direct question. So we open. Okay. We open the direct question first. After that, I will read some of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Ustad.
We'll hear from Nizar Malisi. Okay.
Yeah, my name Nizar Malisi. I'm from Indonesia.
From which
I'm
city?
sorry.
From which city? You are from?
I'm from Indonesia and from Pandeglang, Banten.
Pandeglang, Banten. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm Western of Java. And I'm freelance journalist. I would like to ask you, Professor, about the hierarchy in Islam. I don't know, is my question out of the topic or not? But before I ask the question, I just want to say, nowadays, many women become a chief in a government or organization, especially in democratic state of Islam. As we know, several clerics and views regard that female is haram for becoming a chief, especially in government or social life. For your information, in my country, Indonesia, the law contains policies that require political parties to include a minimum female representation for more 30%. Another regulation is implementing that we call a zipper system, which stipulates that every 3 prospective candidates must include at least 1 woman. So my question is, how Islam manage it? Is there another Islamic law view that explains about the case or about the woman representative in a state? That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, time is for you, Prof. Zeenath.
Yes. Thank you very much, brother.
Sorry for your camera, please. May you? We can't see you clearly. Only the half of your head. Sorry.
Oh.
You can make it lower. Okay. Yeah.
Is
Perfect.
it okay?
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, brother, for your question. It is one of the very important questions, actually, connected with the economic rights of women in Islam. And what are the problems that Muslim societies are facing in the implementation of economic rights for women so that they can incorporate as many women as possible in the Muslim societies. This is one of the important issues we find in the contemporary societies. But to look into this question from to understand this issue, we have to look into two perspectives, in the sense that on if you look into from the Western side, and not only from the Western side, but from the international documents, what they are talking on this issue, we find that they are going and they are emphasizing for 50-50% quotas of participation of women in all social structures. Right. Whether you look into the international document, which is called CEDAW, that is Convention on the Elimination of the Discrimination Against Women, and then the one which is passed in Beijing in 1995, which is called Platform for Action. Uh, so based on these very important two international instruments, which they call for the participation of women in social structures, they suggest that there should be the target should be the 50-50% of participation, and they have also assigned some time within that span of time. They want to say that there should be an expiry date for this 50-50%. Before that, we should get the participation of women in all structures in all those countries where we find the lack of participation of women in different structures. This is the point of view of this is the stand of the international documents on this participation of women. What Islam says about this? Now here, what we have to understand is that Islam talks about the rights of women within within the context of the family and also the whole society. We cannot isolate one of the issues pertaining to women's participation in social structures, isolating it from all other structures, from all other aspects of life, because Islam is a holistic life. It is integrated and holistic, based on Tawheed, oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oneness of community, and oneness of the purpose of creation. So what we need to say here, what we see here is that the emphasis in Islam here is that we, from what I understand from the Islamic perspective, from my simple readings on Islam, is that we should give all opportunities to women so that they can be they can get access to all they can get access to all those positions where they can really give their services based on their interest and their potentials. However, if you stick to the 30% of participation, what you are talking about, Indonesia is not the only country where we find that they have come up with this kind of a strategic agendas, go first for the 30% and then we go for 40%, then we go to the 50% to achieve the complete agenda, which is presented by these international instruments, Platform for Action and CEDAW. So here, there is no problem as long as we open the avenues for women based on their potentials, based on their interest, and also following Islamic injunctions of dress and social interaction, and not make not which may not make any problem for their responsibilities in the family. Then then women can definitely fill up this agenda of 30%. But personally, I do not agree on making the agendas, making the fixed percentages, 30%, 40%, 50%, because this is actually this fixed agendas of 30 and 50% is based on the philosophy of equality which is presented in feminism. Because according to them, unless and until women occupy the 50% participation in all social structures, women are not attaining equality, and they cannot really go for empowerment, and they are not developed, and they are facing problems of injustice and discrimination. So equality, when you are talking about, and you are talking about 50% and 30%, you are making the fixed agenda without really looking into the biological, different biological identities of men and women. There is a possibility that you can achieve the 30% target, and even you can go for the 50% target. There is a possibility, but there is also a possibility that this is not practically possible to achieve this target, and this should not mean that women are unequally represented in the social structures because the so and so country is not following the equality concept and the target which these instruments really have identified. So make this open, give opportunities, and based on their circumstances and based on several other factors, if they are all Islamically justified and no problem, then women can definitely go for it. But making this agenda is actually very important for us to understand that if we are really complying with it, with this perspective, that unless we push women to fulfill the agenda of 30%, they are not equal, then you have not understood the concept of equality. If women are not able to fulfill the target of 30%, which some of the countries have actually assigned for their social structures, uh, still they are equal. Still women are equal to men, even if they are not 50% uh, represented in the social structures. The number does not count here. What is counted here is women, for certain reasons of their own biological differences and their responsibilities, are not able to fulfill that. Still those women should be respected, and they have all rights to say that they are equal to men in humanity, but they are different, and for that reason they may or they may not be able to fulfill their target. Keeping this target is not that logical, I mean, because this is coming from the philosophy of feminism. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you for your answer, mashallah, Dr. Zeenath. And we move to the next question. I will read the question. What is your stand on the concept natural complementary division of labor that many Muslim scholars hold? That God created women to look after family and children only, and men have a lesser responsibility at home. Because some people say this is the patriarchal system in Islam or in Quran. How can you argue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question presented by one of our presenters here. Or I would this is a very important topic too, which I had tried to cover in my presentation, but it is I was quite expecting such a question because there are several complications in the interpretation of some of the verses of the Quran by some Muslim scholars, and there are differences of opinions on this issue based on some of the interpretations of the Quran by some scholars. Uh, Instead of going into detail, because maybe we have so many other questions, what I would like to say here is that Islam talks about men and women complementing each other. Complementing each other, as I said in my presentation, does not mean that men and women are invading their identities and mm, they are not looking in they are not equal to each other. There is no such thing at all like this, because when they are complementing each other, they are actually helping each other for the same cause, whether it is the question of the family or the question of the society. Now, if you say the part of the question is that if women have many responsibilities in the house, especially pertaining to the reproduction, then do we take it as something? Do we look at something as hierarchical or patriarchal? No, definitely not. Because what actually is happening is that during her reproduction process, she is following the responsibility, which is a God given responsibility. And during that period, her husband is following the responsibility which is given to him, and that is mainly the financial responsibility. And this is how they are complementing each other. In that, this if women are preoccupied in some of their reproduction responsibilities, do not mean in any way that they are not equal to men, or they are they are the part of the hierarchy or patriarchy which Islam has built. Is as a basic important point that we need to understand here is that both the works inside and outside the house for Muslim women and men is actually ibadah, service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether she is engaged in some domestic work and for the family, and whether men are engaged in some of the outside work for the financial responsibility, both of them, if they are following the Islamic injunctions for their in their social interaction, in their dresses, and also with the idea, with the purpose that they both are the co-vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following their responsibilities, but so that this should be a service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then both of these works are the ibadah works. Whether it is a domestic work or it is a financial responsibility outside, it is ibadah. So this is not at all should be taken as patriarchal or hierarchical. And sorry, but let me say one more thing here, that sometimes we do talk about that we are complementing each other, men and women in the family and in society. But the question of hierarchy and patriarchal issues cannot be overlooked in the in the practical scenario in the Muslim societies. Some of, or you can say a good number of Muslim families in Muslim and non-Muslim societies, we find that most of the work, most of the domestic work is allotted, is assigned, and is expected only from women, with the idea that because she is exempted from the financial responsibility, and if she is not performing any she's not taking care of any financial responsibility in the family, then all the works within the household, all the house chores of the family should be assigned to her, and this is her work and this is her main work. No, this kind of a division which is made in Muslim societies is cultural, not Islamic. This we have learned from the age-old customs and conventions which have come to us from a long time, because when the Ummah started declining, from that time if we look into the history, we find that the position of women is also badly affected with this decline. It coincided, in fact. The decline of the Ummah and the position of women in Muslim societies went side by side. They coexisted, because we moved away from our real, from our original Islamic stance on men and women. And what we did is we tried to make extreme segregation and extreme division uh, in the family and outside the family, as though that women are only for the housework and men only for as the breadwinners. Whereas what we see in the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he used to help the women in the household, and there is a clear tradition, authentic tradition, which says that he would be helping them in the house chores in whatever way possible until he would hear the azan, and then he would leave the house to lead the congregation in the mosque. So what we understand from here is that this is how the husband and wife responsibilities should be within the house, wherein they should be you know Islamization of domestic work. We need to look into how Islamic teachings talk about men and women cooperating with each other as much as possible. Here, I'm not going like feminists that there should be a 50% cooperation in the house. If so, she is making bread, then he should come and toast the bread, and or either put the jam or butter on it in such a rigid manner. I'm not talking in that way. In whatever way possible, there should be a cooperation. And if you look into the cooperation in the family, then you would not find any kind of hierarchy or any kind of patriarchy. Islam is above patriarchal and hierarchical divisions in the family and in society. There is shura in Islam.
MashaAllah, great answer, Dr. And we have a friend of us from UK, Sumadin, her name. She said, "Dear Professor Zeenath, thank you so much for the comprehensive lecture, which covers so much helpful.
Thank you so much.
Could you let us know which one of your publications deals with the evolving attitudes towards motherhood, about motherhood in the West? Which one? Your publication?"
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And she needs your comment also about motherhood in the West today.
Okay. Thank you very
We'll
much.
write this topic along with Sister Farhat Sister Farhat Amin from UK. You have
Uh-huh.
about her. Uh, this she asked about your comment and which one of your publication evolving this one deals with it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you, sisters, for your questions. This is also, again, a very important question. And one thing is that in many of my books dealing with Islamic critique on feminism and dealing with the platform for action, the international instrument which is passed in 1985, and on which I have some major works on this issue, on this topic. In all these books, I have tried to cover women in family from both perspectives, Islamic as well as feminist. So what I did here is that I looked into the concept first, that what is the concept of family in Islam based on the Quran and the prophetic traditions, and also the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family life. And then I have looked into what the feminists have to say on the family issues. So if you look into some of my writings, Alhamdulillah, inshallah, you will find both the perspectives, Islamic and the Western, which I have presented and make like a comparison sometimes, and sometimes as a critique on the Western perspective on family. In context, of course, with the schools of feminists that I'm discussing on the given issues, right? Well, there is one article on Tawhidic perspective of family, which is totally discussing the Islamic concept of family, and wherein I have looked into the verses of the Quran and also presented some of my reflections looking into the Muslim society, so that I can give the whole picture, that there is, of course, a gap, quite a big gap between what Islam says and what we find in the Muslim societies. So I pointed out that and I discussed that, and so inshallah it will be helpful for you to look into these issue. As far as the motherhood is concerned, when we talk about the family, motherhood is included in that, and wherever I discussed family, I talked about the whole concept of motherhood in such a way what we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying in the Quran, and also in the prophetic traditions, there is so much importance given to motherhood in Islam. And so much importance is given to motherhood in Islam. We can understand that there is a prophetic tradition which is very well known, that when it is asked to the Prophet that whom should we give more what you call regards, not regards, but I mean how much we need to be, helpful and good to our parents. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said 3 times, mother, 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 and then the fourth time he said the father. It does not, however, mean that there is no significant position given to fatherhood in Islam. No, no such thing. But what is important is that all the, from the time of conception, how she conceives the child, and from the time all the 9 months, and then the weaning period, and after that, or several other responsibilities that a mother goes through. For us, from Islamic perspective, it is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has given so much love to mother for her children, that she can go through all these process of reproduction and child care and all that. However, when you look into the West, what you have asked, we find that motherhood is now so badly condemned, politicized, and also it is perceived as one of the obstacles, one of the biggest obstacles in the way of women's development and women's empowerment. Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. Why they think it's so? Because again, as what I've said in the earlier questions, the thing is that from Islamic perspective, we look into any issue from holistic point of view. We look into the family, we look into the society, and we look into all aspects, and we try to cover it, and then we address the issue. But here what we find is that they talk about women's empowerment and uh, on the relating it to the economic independence of women, and also her political position in the political structures of the given society. So now the question arises here is that they find that one of the biggest obstacles which stand for the economic independence is the motherhood. So motherhood is the biggest problem. So what to do? How to overcome this problem of motherhood? So we have to go for accepting the reproduction technologies, pro-reproduction technology and anti-reproduction technology. Through these pro and anti-reproduction technologies, we can overcome the problems which a woman uh, faces. Uh, she woman encounters during the process of reproduction. So now, in order to overcome that, they are trying to come up with many concepts like the liberation of sexuality from marriage and family, the liberation of reproduction from marriage and family. So if you liberate sexuality and reproduction from marriage and family, then what is the position? Where is the position of family, and where is the position of woman as a mother? The question of motherhood then does not arise when we are trying to promote all these technologies so that women should get access to those social structures and those social occupations uh, following those occupations which give rise to problems and clash with her role as a mother. So now they have cut the motherhood into various categories. They said that there are mothers from whom we can get the ovaries. There are mothers who can go for surrogacy. They can lease their womb, and then if there are any possibilities that we can lessen down the responsibilities of motherhood following the reproduction technologies, no matter whether it is giving rise to adultery, no matter whether it is giving rise to many other sexual problems, many other social ills in the society, they do not want to consider all these issues. They want to just focus on the empowerment of women at the cost of the motherhood, not only motherhood, but also at the cost of family as such. So this is actually the position. If you look into my books, you will find how liberal and radical feminists, and then coming with them, the gender feminists have given their opinions on that. And for them, motherhood is a stumbling block, and to overcome that, we have to use the technologies, or we should on one side we should use the technology, and on one side we have to make the political agenda of uh, uh, going for abortions and going for contraceptives and promoting the condom culture, so that there should be no motherhood and there should be more um, opportunities for women, so that according to them they can go for higher education without motherhood, and they can occupy many positions without motherhood, and that would help them better for their development, rather than getting preoccupied in the responsibilities of motherhood.
Okay, we have the last question, and it's direct question from Chennai, India, your country. We have Fatima Muzaffar. Please ask the professor directly, Miss or Dr. Fatima.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum
I'm
salam
Fatima Muzaffar
warahmatullahi
here from
wabarakatuh.
Chennai. Very
Mashallah,
very happy to see our respected Professor Dr. Zeenath Kausar Sahiba. I got the opportunity to meet her last year when I was in Hyderabad through our All India leader of the Women's Wing of Muslim Personal Law Board, Dr. Asma Zahra. She is also present here. Thank you, brother Ustaz.
Yes. I remember you. I remember you.
Yeah,
I remember you
Jazakallah.
and Asma. Yes. Thank you very much
Inshallah.
for.
The world has come to our palms now, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and thanks to Corona, that we are all coming together now. Jazakallah, brother moderator Ustaz Noor. We're always very fond of Malaysia and all the brothers and sisters there. I've visited many a times. Alhamdulillah. When last year I was there for a conference, for the International Quran Conference. So happy to be connected to all the brothers and sisters there. Now, my question to Professor, who is giving us a very enlightening speech, mashallah, is an inspiration to many of us here in India. Dr. Zeenath Madam, may Allah bless her, and the other panelists also spoke very well today. Sister Ummi Farha, we really benefited a lot. My question already partially Madam has answered, but again I want to go back to this surrogacy, where India has become almost, I should say, headquarters of surrogacy mothers, where the womb is available for rent because of the poverty. And the so-called two superstars of the Hindi film world had surrogate children, and both of them were Muslim superstars. So that set a precedent for many youngsters, especially the women, that they did not have to carry a baby and go through all the physical pain. So as well go in for a surrogate child, and that makes it very easy for them. You have handled it already, madam, but how do we take it up more Islamically? That is first part of my question. And the second is, now the youngsters are being brainwashed in the educational institutes that the LGBTQ community, it's so embarrassing for us to even address it. But the youngsters, it has become part of their life. When it's become a joke now, when they say they're getting married, the question is whether you're getting married not to your same religion or same country or place, but whether you're getting married to a boy or a girl. So it has become a human rights issue now, where the LGBTQ is taken as a human right, topic, and you cannot talk against it. You cannot, deny that right as a human rights. So I want our panel, respected madam, to throw light on this issue, the surrogacy and the LGBT community. Astaghfirullah, Rabbi, may Allah keep us and our children protected. How do we emphasize to them that this is not a feminist issue, and this is not something where you talk about your rights, but it is a violation of the basic creation itself? I would like you to throw light on that. And Jazakallah khair for giving me an opportunity. I'm very happy to be connected from Chennai, Tamil Nadu to the world community. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Sister Fatima, I remember you very well. You and Sister Asma, and there were several other women, Alhamdulillah. And we talked about on several issues. MashaAllah. Thank you very much for joining us here. And your questions, of course, are very important and pertinent to the contemporary situations, in fact. As far as the surrogacy is concerned, from the Islamic perspective, when we look into, we find that we are what is the whole concept is that you are taking uh, the woman is actually leasing her womb so that the baby can be, developed, and then this is taken as in some societies, this is taken as an honor for women, that being a woman, she is able to help other women who for some reasons, whether genuine reasons or not genuine reasons, are not able to pass through all the stages of reproduction, and so she is helping them. But the question arises here is whether this is being done uh, through the male and the female, who from whom you have taken whatever needed, what you can understand, and then it is after getting it into the test tube, and then you are taking also the help of the womb of the mother. In all this process, the question of what is being taken from whom arises. And in the first place, according to many Muslim scholars, if the what we need for the process of reproduction, if we are not getting from the husband and wife, then this will create the problem of adultery. One thing. Now, another thing on top of that, what you are doing is that you are taking the womb of another woman, and this woman has, you have rightly said, has accepted this responsibility because of the great donations, great money which she is getting from those who are taking this part of the function of reproduction from her. So this is giving rise to many problems: legal problems, moral problems, social problems. In some of the cases which I have studied, where I have seen that those who have become the surrogate mothers, after keeping the child for 9 months and then giving birth to the child, although they have the agreements that this is just being leased to them to help them, but after the childbirth, they get love and affection. They get the same motherly attachment to the child. And then there are cases in the court where they are fighting now uh, whether the child should be given to the surrogate mother or to those who have given the surrogate mother this responsibility, based on some uh, agreement which is legal. So all these are actually the issues which are deeply connected to the whole idea of sexuality, reproduction, motherhood, and family. What feminists have done here in the concept of family, that they have broken it into so many pieces. Take the eggs from this, take the womb from here, and do the childbirth like this, and after the childbirth give to these nurseries, and then after this to this to this, and this is how the whole motherhood is cut into pieces. It's divided into many categories, and then uh, this is of course giving rise to multiplicities of problems in the society. So the whole issue is that we have to bring home to this point to our young generation is that if we cannot look into from Islamic point of view the whole sanctity of marriage and the family institution as central for civilization, then this civilization cannot do anything in its development. Because if you cannot take care of your basic institution, which is family, if you cannot look into the beautiful and the primary function, which is motherhood, which should be taken as a blessing, uh, and which is a source of happiness, which is a source of many other uh, uh, not only just the pleasures and benefits, but for the whole, for the good of the whole community as such, then we are really losing one of the main pillars of a civilization. So it is very important on the part of Muslim scholars and our community leaders that we have to bring this issue as one of the top agendas, because without family you cannot think about society, and if we keep on using these reproduction technologies which are being promoted uh, for some other purpose. This is not promoted for just the sake of simple convenience or anything, but this has got repercussions, and this has got very evil implications in the society, because this whole concept is based again on how we politicize family and how we politicize the relationship between husband and wife. And for that reason, they have said that sex is political, family is political, so it is better to liberate a woman from these political institutions through all these technologies, including surrogacy. As far as LGBT is concerned, it is unfortunately becoming so popular also in Muslim societies. And we have very clear injunctions in the Quran, citing the example of the community of the Prophet Lut alayhi salam, that how this is condemned, and then how they were punished by the storm of stones, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only accepts the heterosexual relationships based on the marital contract. But we are going with some or the excuse uh, with these arguments, that actually some of the scholars who are I have I have to say this, that they are the some of them are the imams in some of the mosques in some of the countries, where they have given this argument that I have this inner natural urge in me, and I am born in this way, and this is also justified because the Quran talks about the diversity in the creation, and also diversity in in the relationships, in the diversity of creation and diversity in human relationships. So this according to them, even the punishment which is uh, which was that the stones which were stormed on the whole community of Lut al-Islam, was not particularly because of this problem, sexual problem, sodomy, but actually because they were the ones who were not good with the travelers. They were doing theft, and they were also engaged in several other moral problems, and they had a very corrupt life, and for that reason this punishment was given to them. So based on that, they come to this conclusion that we have to accept the diversity, and this is not condemned in Islam, and this is what they are promoting. All these actually again the sexual and reproductive issues are only the symptoms, what I see, which we see in the society. The symptoms, I mean, these are the problems, no doubt. But actually, the root cause of all these problems is not how we can go for liberty and freedom on our own human understanding without any recourse to the scriptures, so that we should enjoy our life as our life, our body, our sexuality, and our whatsoever. So this is actually connected with liberalism, and this liberalism is deeply rooted in the Enlightenment agenda. And unfortunately, as I said in my presentation, our minds are colonized still, although we are, as countries, we find that we understand that, yeah, colonization is ended, but these people, they have already made such huge and very comprehensive strategic programs, that how we can, even if we can stay in our own places, we can intellectually colonize people of other cultures, so that we can continue our hegemony. So all these problems that we find in our society, which have no sanction in Islam, from the Quran and the Sunnah, we find that they are being now taken as normal, and people are following it. We need to make sure our young generation, to make them understand that we the only solution we find for our personal individual life, and also the collective life in the society, we have to go into what the creator, the maintainer, the sovereign of this whole cosmos, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, presents in the Quran and Sunnah, and that is the only solution, that is our only way of success. Thank you very much. I think I've gone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your great answer, Dr. Zeenath, and also Ustaz Zomi Farha. Actually, we have many questions here, very long queue of questions. We have Dr. Azizat from Nigeria. She wants to ask you, or maybe give salam for you. Let's.
Assalamu alaikum.
Tafadhali, please, Dr. Azizat. Sorry. Yeah, we'll unmute you again. Okay. Test. Can't hear from you. Okay.
Hello, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
From Nigeria. Dr. Aziza from Nigeria.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm keeping my video off because of the strength of my connection.
No problem.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much, Professor, for your presentation. And a strong point that I like so much is because of its responsiveness to the fact that the war on the ideology of Islam is actually ideological. the liberalism, democracy, and everything. Jazakallah khairan. My question is on the issue of complementarity, where you discuss the economic responsibility of for a Muslim home on the men. Now, the question of the role of women, if you look into the sources, has always be well, maybe from my own context, a subject of controversy. What is the role of a woman in addition to motherhood? And I've had scholars explain that it's cultural, meaning then that perhaps if the men would have the economic responsibility, the woman is the manager of the home, responsible for all domestic chores. Now, this is problematic. You have given us the example of the way Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would, and I like the theory of Islamization of domestic chores. But on the flip side, in some cultures, it's used to denigrate the position of women, that men would look for the bread and the woman would do all the work. On the other side, if you then say Islamization, at times it gives the sense that a man is then responsible in addition to seeking for bread, or also participating in domestic chores, and it seems unfair to men. So how do you create this balance? Is it true that it's cultural, or is it that it's neutral? And women like Waduda would then acting on this, and I would think Islam specifically left it so that the both sexes, in the spirit of taqwa, work out what is the responsibility if you understand the biology of each sexes. But again, the lack of specificity means then that people can hinder that. Thank you so much, brother, for giving me this opportunity.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Professor Zeenath, you can answer it shortly or very shortly, because I know it's midnight in Malaysia.
Okay.
And you need rest actually. May Allah bless you, mashallah. And even brother or professor from Chicago, USA, he said that, mashallah, you are untiring warrior.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much for your encouraging words for me. I'm just doing a small service. It's very, very limited when compared to the problems that we are facing in our society. Well, for the question from our sister from Nigeria, I think.
Yes, Dr. Aziza.
Dr. Aziza. A very important question indeed. This is a heart of, sorry to say, male exploitation and manipulation. Maybe I'm sounding here a feminist, but no, not at all. I'm talking from within the Islamic perspective, looking into the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we find in him as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, the best example to show that how he did, how he was cooperating with his wives inside the house. Not only that, what I have quoted the prophetic tradition, but also if you look into that, how he was cordial in his relationship with women, with his wives. And if you look into the life of Hadrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and how Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Hadrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha interacted with each other in their family life as well as in their dawa activities outside the family, you will be just struck by looking at that example, and you see what you find in our Muslim societies, which is so totally different from it. We say that the life of the Prophet is an example for us, but an example only on certain issues and not for the family. we have to see that how the Prophet said that one who is best to his family is the best person, and I am the best person to my family. So what we get the message from the Quran when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says that the love and mercy which Allah has put between the spouses, and also in the prophetic tradition and in the life of the Prophet, it is very clear that there should be a cooperation. One basic thing what we ignore here is that both male and female, men and women, are created for one purpose, and that is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So if we say that women also come under the category of insan, then we have to get the message from here, from this verse of the Quran, that our purpose of creation is to serve Allah. Now, because of certain biological functions, some of the responsibilities which women perform, especially the reproduction one, doesn't mean that all the responsibilities within the house should be put and entrusted only on women, with no whatsoever participation of male in whatever capacity. This is not the model of an Islamic family. What we say that Islam is not patriarchal. We say that based on what the Quran say and what the prophetic traditions say. But what we see in the Muslim families, in some of the Muslim families, it is my own observation that you cannot say that they are the Muslim families, they are mini monarchies. This is what I have said, and that you have to obey, because I am you should understand that Hawamun means we are the heads, and how Hawamun is translated and interpreted as superior to women, huh? As despots and authoritarian in the families. Where are we going? We are moving from our own traditions, what Islam says, and this is one of the reasons that there is on one side so much of what you call cultural traditionalization, and which is a part of the misrepresentation of Islam and misinterpretations of the Quranic text and also the prophetic traditions. And on the other side, you find so much of liberalization that they do not want the family. They want to confine, on one side, they want to confine women within the family and just keep silent. This is, please look into some of my books wherein I have discussed women as the head of state in Islam, wherein there are several traditions which I have quoted there and described there, how Muslim scholars are in fact battling with each other. Some have this interpretation, some have this, and others have the different interpretation for whether women can participate in the political structures. This is what we are doing. This is what we are doing. And on the other side, we find that they are talking about how we should liberalize women from the family and from all the responsibility, and how they should be. It looks as the relationship between men and women as tug of war. A war is going on between them. There is a tension on the responsibilities and rights between them. So this whole thing, the only solution, to come back to your point, is that there is complementarity in Islam, and complementarity does not mean that you are not talking about equality. There is equality in humanity, but we are also biologically different, so there is a different identity. And because of all these things, there are certain functions only, certain functions. You cannot generalize. You cannot say that all the horse course should be for that all the responsibility should be handed over to women. And if there is a problem, there is some of your cap missing, and your even the tissue paper is missing on the table, and this is the responsibility of a woman, why she is not taking care of it. Especially my dear sister, I should say you that women who really want to contribute something to the society in the way of Islam, and they are following their responsibilities within the family, and they follow Islamic interaction, Islamic injunctions on interactions and dress, and they want to do something for the sake of Ummah. They are just so jealously and so rigorously, if there is any problem coming from them, or not a problem, but nothing, no problem at all, but still they like to present those women, the image of those women, as though they are not bothered about their own responsibilities in the family, and all what they are doing is they are serving the society.
Okay. MashaAllah, Masya. May
This
Allah
is
bless you,
very,
Dr. Zeenath.
this is wrong, and this should not be done. Thank you so much, sister.
May Allah bless you and cure your ill, Mr. Dr. Zeenath. Also, our attendance. We must stop now, and we have actually many questions from UK, from US, from Indonesia, and many countries, but the time is limited, so we must say goodbye to you, and we will have next a lecture in the following month with Sister Tuğba Turoglu, a historian from Turkey, women and women rights in Islamic history. She is an historian from Turkey, actually. And also, you should visit our website in ThisisGender.com, www.thisisgender, one word.com, and also our Instagram account. And for you who are from Indonesia, we have WhatsApp groups talking about Islamic feminism, gender, women, and etc. related to this topic. And also we open such pre-order for the books belong to Dr. Zeenath from Malaysia. So if you want to purchase some of them, you can email us for information, but we will inform you in next time which books and how much and how to purchase that book. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's all for today, and we close this. Actually, it's Maghrib in Jeddah here now.
Oh, I see.
May Allah accept your deed and accept your
Thank you very much.
fast of
Thank you so
Ashura.
much. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, see you next time. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka. May Allah forgive us. May Allah accept our good deeds, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
See you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Assalamualaikum
much.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks for
Thanks.
all. Thanks for Dr.
Jazakallah.
Zeenath. Thanks for Dr. For Miss Umi Farhan, and for all attendants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, thank you very much for Dr.
Thank you
Zeenath.
very much.
Thank you very much for
Thank
Dr.
you so much.
Zeenath. Yeah, we will come inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Prof.
Jazakallah.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.